Thank you, Piyush ji, for joining us. It's nice to see you around in Mumbai these days, ever since you've become a Lok Sabha member from Bombay.
Well, I've always been a Mumbaiker, and
But good to see
for
you
the rest of my life, I love to be in Mumbai.
So, Piyush ji, the first question. As turnarounds go, I think the Maharashtra victory was a spectacular turnaround. This audience understands the value of turnarounds. Hand on your heart, my first question is, were you really expecting 132, a 90% strike rate?
Well, I can acknowledge that we didn't expect to win 90% of the seats. But whether it's Nitinji, the rest of our national leadership, Honorable Prime Minister, Rajnathji, Amit Bhai, Naddaji, we were all very clear that the people of Maharashtra cannot be conned, cannot be taken in with a fake narrative a second time around. They are much smarter. Maybe at one point of time, 6 months ago, a lot of people did not come out in full big strength to vote. And we found the voting percentage down. We found that we lost a lot of seats with very small margins. The difference really even in June was not big. The difference between the winning side, the Maha Vikas Aghadi, and our combination was only 200,000 votes. It was not something which was a big loss. But we pulled our socks up, we got the act together, and I think whether it was the performance, both when Devendra Fadnavis was Chief Minister for 5 years, the last 2.5 years when Eknath Shinde, Fadnavis and Ajit Pawar worked as a team, whether it's the central government performance, when you take all of it together, people had a sense of feeling that they had let down the Prime Minister for all the good work that he had done and the Maharashtra government, the Mahayuti, had done. And therefore, it's the first time in many, many years, you must be looking at the statistics, yes, we saw a larger turnout in the assembly election. 5% bump up in assembly election is something we have not seen in any election. And therefore, you could see the massive scale of victory. I think it's a fitting testimony to the work that has happened over the last 10 years.
So, Piyush ji, what really worked? Was it Ladki Behna scheme, or was it batoge to katoge or ek hai to safe hai? What really clinched it for you?
Well, very clearly, the government, both at the center and the state, working on the 3 tracks. One of the tracks was setting the macroeconomic fundamentals of the country right, strengthening the economy. The second was what we just discussed at great length with Nitinji, the thrust on infrastructure, which obviously meant larger investments coming into the country, jobs being created, and a general sense that the country is on the move. The world today recognizes India as the growth engine of the world economy. And the third thrust was always on public welfare. The idea being that every single child born in this country should not ever want for the basic needs of life. You know, we made sure, Prime Minister Modi has been focused through 10 years to make sure that roti, kapda, makan, bijli, sadak, pani, swasth, shiksha, aaj ke paripeksh mein digital connectivity, these are ensured for everybody. So I think the performance and politics of performance was at the core of our victory. The Maharashtra government came out with a lot of very good schemes, particularly the Ladki Behna scheme, because we are recognizing and empowering 2.5 crore sisters. This empowerment, this monthly empowerment, will ensure that they will never have to look up to somebody for their day-to-day needs. And of course, one cannot deny that the opposition once again tried to create the second time around the fake narrative, dividing Indian society on caste, on language, on religion. And the people of Maharashtra, just like the people of Rajasthan, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, the 4 states where we had a little lower performance in May and June of 2024, all these 4 states gave a resounding result, a victory to the Bharatiya Janata Party and the NDA, in a way reflecting on the spirit of Hum Ek Hai to Safe Hai. The country came together. The country rallied around that we will not allow anybody to divide us on caste, creed, religion, language, state, any of these divisive politics.
You know, Piyush on the Ladki Behna scheme, in Madhya Pradesh also you had a resounding victory. Similar scheme was there. Prime Minister has, was the first to attack this Revdi culture in a big way. In fact, it was very bold of him to say that. Does it at all worry you that, these schemes, this competitive kind of populism is going to hurt us in the long run? You talk about infrastructure development, you talk about, will one come at the cost of the other?
First of all, let me correct the perspective of what we mean by Revdi culture. Look at Prime Minister Modi's 10 years in government. From day one, he spoke about women-led development. He looked at women as the fulcrum of India's growth story. He recognized that if we empower our sisters, our daughters, to play a greater role in India's growth story, then only the country can become a developed nation. After all, how could we have a situation that barely 11% of our women are participating in the formal economy? A lot of the work that our women did was never recognized, was never rewarded. All the work they did to even keep our tradition, our culture, our heritage, our family value systems, looking after homes, doing two-shift, working in the fields, working in homes, working in factories, yet keeping our families and our value systems alive. I think the women of India played a phenomenal role.
Yes.
And therefore, in the 10 years, we made sure that we gave 80 crore people, the less privileged, the poor, the lower middle class, free food grains. We wanted to make sure nobody is ever deprived of health care. 55 crore people got free health care. Now another 12 crore above 70, irrespective of income level here.
Yes.
So we've had some cases where even billionaires have done injustice to their older parents. So Prime Minister was very clear, everybody above 70, his health care should be taken care of. We created 12 crore free toilets so that no woman ever has to lead a life of indignity. No girl child has to go to the fields. We made sure that our cooking gas connection go to every home. We are now making sure water goes to every home through the Jal Jeevan Mission, Nal Se Jal. Already 15 crore more homes have got water directly at their home. 4 crore free homes to the poor. Another 3 crore in these 5 years. All of this, one can call this also Revdi, but I believe this is empowerment. Empowering inclusive growth. And similarly, our money going to the women will empower them to play a more important role in India's growth story. And every place where we have provided any of these benefits, we made sure the budget could take care of it.
Sure.
We are not like Himachal Pradesh that we are going to go bankrupt. Or like Karnataka or Telangana, who have promised a lot of things, but don't have the elbow room or the budget to deliver on those promises. So they are bringing all sorts of caveats of failing to pay their pensions and salaries. None of the BJP or NDA-led states or the central government has let fiscal profligacy or weak fiscal situation determine their unfortunate disaster which we see in some states.
We'll carry on this discussion at some point later. Today time is a little short. So next question. I think GDP growth in Q2 weak at about 5.4%. Markets also seem a little lackluster. There seems to be urban stress. What is your prognosis of the economy?
Well, I think Government of India and the Indian economy doesn't work like the stock market quarter se quarter tak. There will obviously always be a couple of times when we'll have to see some weakness, as Honorable Finance Minister rightly pointed out. This is the lag effect of the election period. The Q1, we had an election, and all across the country, obviously spending was a little slower. As Honorable Nitin Gadkari ji said, we can clearly see that this quarter, whether you look at all the initial numbers of GST collection, you look at the manufacturing index, you look at the IIP numbers, by and large, all the numbers, the basic strength of the economy seems to be pretty much intact. We feel that at the end of the year we'll grow quite decently, will continue to be the fastest growing economy. We could have benefited with some help from other quarters also. But the government,
आपका इशारा यहाँ बैठे लोगों पर है.
मेरा कोई इशारा नहीं है, मैंने सिर्फ कहा ये संयुक्त
नहीं, ये क्या कर सकते हैं? What can they do to help your case?
सभी का प्रयास होना चाहिए. मीडिया भी पॉजिटिविटी ला सकती है, शायद मेरा इशारा आपकी तरफ था.
In the last interaction you had with us when CNBC completed 25 years, you urged the RBI governor to go in for a rate cut. Do you think that RBI should drop its reticence and looking at the GDP numbers, go in for a rate cut?
No, I recall very correctly what I had said. I did not talk about a rate cut at all because that's not my remit. I'm not entitled to interfere in the regulator's independence.
Sure.
What I only mentioned was reiterating what the chief economic advisor in the economic survey had mentioned. And I have been strongly a proponent of this, not today, not for the last 2 years, 5 years, but even before I became a minister. I remember talking about this, probably Lata is here, must have done some interviews with her in the old days on this issue also. I can't for the life of me understand how the demand of onion or tomatoes or potatoes or rice or pulses is going to be affected by interest rates, whether they are high or low. I just can't for the life of me believe that we have not yet been able to evolve out of a outdated historical thinking where we are looking at the total retail inflation or CPI. It's time, as the famous saying goes, when things change, you have to change with time. Life is not always just a constant. And I do believe some economists should put their heads together and try to decipher what is the impact of high interest rates on food inflation, and are we not actually fueling further inflation and adding to the woes of inflation to the common man by keeping interest rates high? I personally believe this is a debate whose time has come.
So your personal view, you're still saying that it is time for a rate cut?
Well, once you eliminate food inflation from the basket, the rest would be for all the policymakers to sit down and take a sensible decision.
Piyush, slower capital spending has resulted in moderate economic growth. Central government expenditure in the first half was 15% lower. What can the government do to, meet the target in the coming months?
Well, I can share with you that including, and Nitinji will bear me out, including in our cabinet meeting yesterday, the Honorable Prime Minister has urged all the ministers to focus on making sure that we meet our capex targets, and he himself is extremely focused to make sure that the economy remains on track. And I can share with you, just recently, there have been some reports about case studies being done on Pragati, for example.
Yes.
Prime Minister himself monitors large projects, himself monitors what is the obstruction that is causing capex to slow down. And I'm very confident, just as Honorable Nitinji was, that you will see an uptick in investments. Already the third quarter shows the green shoots of greater capex spending and investments. You mentioned about the stock market slowing down. I think it's just vacillating. It's not really gone down in a very, very drastic manner.
It's range bound, yeah.
Yeah, it's just been a little bit of ups and downs. And we in government believe that we have to stay the course. We have to focus on ease of doing business. We have to focus on a strong fundamental economic situation where all the basic building blocks of the economy are addressed. The rest will follow automatically.
Just one or two quick questions. You've said in our last interaction, when CNBC, you said that Donald Trump is a friend of India. How do you view his latest threat on punitive tariffs to BRIC countries, of which India is one?
No, he did not mention India. Rahul ji, आप पेपर भी ठीक से नहीं पढ़ते हो यार.
मैं पेपर बनाता ही नहीं हूँ.
I'm sure, as you all read, that the comment that Mr. Donald Trump had made was on Canada,
yes,
Mexico, and China. And India is very proud that we are one country which is very transparent in its practices, in our business working. We have no hidden subsidies. We do not at all provide any sort of incentive for export, which can distort the export market. And our trade with the US is fairly balanced. We may have a little bit of a surplus on the goods side, but then we spend nearly $20 billion in the students who are studying in various universities in the US.
Yes.
We have a lot of defense purchases from the US. We spend very heavily on our technology payments to the US. So our partnership with the United States is beyond just a number. It's very, very strategic, it's very deep, and the friendship that Prime Minister Modi shares with President Trump is truly an exceptional friendship, something which is very, very personal at an emotional level. And over the 10 years, we've worked with the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the Biden administration, and every single period, the friendship with the US has only got better. And I'm sure the next 4 years are again going to be a great time for the US-India partnership.
Just one last question. How do you view the attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh and Bangladesh's friendly relationship now with Pakistan? Do you think that, do you rule out any punitive economic measures?
Well, I strongly condemn what is happening to the Hindus in Bangladesh. I have the confidence that the government there will act on it. We have our Foreign Secretary visiting Bangladesh on Monday to meet Mr. Mohammad Yunus and other senior leaders. The government of India has taken it up at every level very, very strongly. And all such efforts to attack people on the basis of caste or religion is truly condemnable. And I do believe any effort also to derail the Indian economy and the India growth story, sometimes led by elements outside the country, about which we have recently also spoken about in Parliament.
Yes.
Efforts like the OCCRP coming out with reports hitting at the basic fabric of India, hitting at India's secular fabric, hitting at India's growth, coming out in a timed fashion, every time to coincide with the Parliament session. Such efforts often funded by vested interests inimical to India's growth story and growing importance, and very often also fueled by people from India, is extremely sad. I think when it comes to India, when it comes to Bharat, 140 crore Indians should stand united for the good of our people. It's unfortunate that so many years after history in the past, we had Jaychands once upon a time causing loss to the country. Sadly, we continue to have Jaychands. Amidst our missed even today.
Piyush ji, thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to the Minister. Thank you, sir.